who is this cabal that Eric Bolling is referring to? More on that in a minute.
That President Trump has officially designated Antifa as a domestic terror organization. Let us dive a little deeper into the cabal that was mentioned by the board member of TPUSA. Could this be it? Could it be Armed Queers Salt Lake City? Let's dive a little deeper.
According to Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Armed Queers SLC is now under FBI investigation as an extended network related to Charlie's killer. That's where this lady comes into play. Ermia Fanayan, the founder of Armed Queers Salt Lake City and an organizer with PSL. More on them in a minute. She is also a trans liberation and feminist political organizer, which work includes organizing around the abortion struggle. Specifically works to arm queer and trans communities for communal militant defense. Oh, look at that. And she also sat down to talk to Slug Mag about arming queers and trans communities. The trip was run through the National Network on Cuba, linked to the Cuban state with U.S. NGOs as members, many of whom are linked to Neville Singham NGOs. If the name Neville Singham rings a bell, it's probably because I did a story about Neville Singham paying for protesters during the LA anti-ICE riots. Check this out.
Anybody notice that it's actually being funded by somebody who is not involved in any other way at all? There's actually proof of this. Let's hear Anna Paulina Luna, a Florida member of Congress, talk about it here.
Where does the PSL get its money? Enter Shanghai-based socialist billionaire Neville Singham. Started funding far-left groups like the PSL to the tune of millions. He has deep business ties to the CCP. Member of Congress from Florida, Republican Anna Paulina Luna, announced she's issuing a formal document request to Neville Singham. He refuses to comply. He will be referred to the DOJ for prosecution. And what does the audience need to know that you're suspicious of?
Multiple members of the Chinese government that actually were trying to smuggle in agro-terrorism into the United States. I think that if you look at what happened in 2019 with COVID-19 amidst negotiations with China as well then, I do believe the Chinese government knows what they're doing, they're smart, and they're dangerous.
Remember how I told you it was coordinated insurgency? Remember how I told you these rioters were getting anti-ICE PPE kits funded by a charity organization? There's more to the story than meets the eye.
Which is race-based Hispanic Americans into thinking that this is about deporting immigrants or deporting illegals. It's not about that.
Does anybody remember the BLM riots? Does anybody remember how that was funded by George Soros and how black people were getting pushed with this propaganda? Mexican people are getting pushed with that same propaganda, except this time it's anti-ICE riots. Wake up, people.
So using that as a ruse, just like during BLM, Black Americans were used under the same ruse as during Marxism. The funding and the money that we are seeing coming actually into Neville Singham's pocketbook and then also to these nonprofit and organizations, it's actually money directly from the CCP.
Now that we've established a link between the founder of Armed Queers Salt Lake City, PSL, and Neville Singham, let's dig a little bit deeper into the association between the founder of Armed Queers Salt Lake City and the radicalization of the assassin of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson. And look at her words here. Words cannot describe the power, steadfastness, and fervor that your revolution has created. Spending time in Cuba has made me, along with my comrades, acutely aware of my duty in the belly of the beast. As the world struggles against the destruction the United States has been responsible for, even under a 60-year blockade and constant attacks from the U.S., the Cuban people have shown what it takes to never back down from our principles and vision for a better world. Sounds like pro-communist, anti-American rhetoric to me. Now deleted video. In it, Ermia Fanayan and an unidentified man named Connor talk about Palestinian students at Cuba studying revolution, brigadistas from around the world being brought in for revolutionary orientation, and how every aspect of Cuban society is dedicated to training organizers, and they're open about the terrorist label to the point where they lament U.S. institutions that do not allow them to speak in such a way. Keep in mind that Salt Lake City Armed Queers is currently under federal investigation for advanced knowledge of the Charlie Kirk assassination.
In the Belly of the Beast documentary that we had watched there, I think it was from this where it mentioned that while the students at Elam who came from Gaza were there to study medicine, that simultaneously they, just by virtue of being there, studied revolution. And I think that school really probably forms consciousness for a lot of people when they're there to just study how to help people. And of course, that makes sense. And I think that it was at the other university that we went to that I was really surprised by how seamlessly they switched from a Cuban cultural dance to singing communist songs, right? This change was not a change to them at all. It's the same culture to them through and through.
It was the Communist International.
Yes.
That they were singing.
Yes.
Which was really cool.
Really cool to switch from a Cuban cultural dance to singing communist songs, huh? As you can see, the armed queers describe how Palestinian med students in Cuba studied revolution alongside medicine, which was mentioned in the video by Maria and Cooper. After openly admiring the singing of communist songs during their trip to Cuba, let's listen to them talk about the rest of the May Day Brigade and the Brigadistas and what revolutionary politics, communist songs, and anti-Americanism was taking place.
And they weren't the only ones we heard sing that. We also had the chance to interact with organizers from around the world, specifically some people from Germany love to sing the International.
And I think that was also what's so cool about the May Day Brigade, which we knew was going to happen, but I think we weren't expecting to such an extent. Mm-hmm. It was that we were sharing this brigade, not just other American brigadistas, but brigadistas from around the world, from South Africa, from Ghana, from other Latin American countries, from Australia, from Germany. And essentially this was an international brigade where they wanted brigadistas with a revolutionary orientation, with revolutionary politics, to come and learn about the Cuban Revolution and essentially have to fight against this blockade that our country, as American representatives on the Strip, was fully responsible for.
Did you hear what she said? She said that the people of the May Day Brigade were indoctrinated with revolutionary tactics and revolutionary orientation. And if you listen to the rhetoric that Ermia is displaying during the course of this video, she's basically blaming America for what happened to Cuba and also talking about openly exploring the possibility of starting a revolution in America with help from being radicalized by Cuba. Did you hear her gush about the trip to Cuba and the May Day Brigade? Did you hear how she changed her worldview based on the indoctrination that she took part in while she was in Cuba? It appears that she got radicalized and indoctrinated and then took that same radicalization and indoctrination and used it on someone else. Let's further that notion with this video clip right here.
Did you know that there is an entire history of the Cuban Revolution leading some of the most remarkable examples of progress in humanity that the United States of America has wanted to hide from us for decades? From Cuba's medical brigades that have been responsible for sending doctors around the world to their education system that has made it a priority not to close down a single school in the country since the revolution, to democratically passing the most progressive family code in the world.
Let's pause right there. Listen to her gush about Cuba and the family code. You want to know what that family code was? Listen to this crazy ass shit that she's about to say about the family code when she describes it in this video after the trip to Cuba.
So the Cuban family code, right? The Cuban family code, for those who don't know, it is the most progressive family code in the history of the world. Essentially, this code completely solidifies the rights of gay marriage. It solidifies the dignity of trans people. It solidifies women as equal partners in the home. It solidifies the right to non-traditional families. It solidifies the right to elders to be able to take care of children who maybe, are their grandchildren. Essentially, it completely redefines what a family is in ways that we have never seen before all throughout history.
Now that we've heard the revolutionary tactics and the revolutionary orientation include the restructuring of the nuclear family, let us not forget that the entire point of the armed queers is to train gay, queer, and transgender people to arm themselves and fight against capitalism and the American system. So let's look at the bigger picture. The armed queers of Salt Lake City went to Cuba for training in revolutionary tactics. They talked about being inspired and bringing home the revolution. They're an NGO dedicated to training other gay, transgender, and queers, arming them and then training them in those revolutionary tactics. Can you guess who else was radicalized?
None other than the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson.
Let us also not forget the link between the founder of Armed Queers Salt Lake City and Neville Singham, the person on the screen, who was funding the anti-ICE protests, according to Representative Anna Paulina
To know
Luna.
your thoughts on the possible link between the radicalization of Tyler Robinson and the radicalization and indoctrination that Ermia had during her trip to Cuba during the May Day Brigade, and if the two are linked, and this is the organization that may have radicalized Tyler Robinson into allegedly assassinating Charlie Kirk. The rationalization between the linking of these two concepts rests in this rationale. This organization is from Utah. The assassination took place in Utah. One of the reasons that Tyler Robinson allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk was because he was homophobic and anti-trans. Combine all of that with the fact that Armed Queers is advocating for gay and trans people to be armed, trained in revolutionary tactics and revolutionary orientation. And you may have the piece of the extended network that radicalized the alleged assassin, Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson. Let's also not forget what Eric Bowling, a board member with TPUSA, said during his podcast appearance here.
Who's they? The cabal that I believe is behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk and probably looking to to alter history by taking out kingpins of conservative thought.
Question.